Hey, good morning. This is Jerry over at Wealth DynamX. I hope you're having a good day today. I wanted to give you a really quick live stream here and talk to you this morning about, how the wealthy have actually used sacred accounts to get where they are, especially if you historically look back in the early to mid 1900s. This is where this concept really started to take off and become popular. And today, I would say, wealthy people use it, but they don't talk about it. The other group that uses it and doesn't talk about it is Fortune 500 companies, banks, large corporations. They use the sacred account. I want to kind of share with you what they do, okay? So I want to take this all the way back to John Rockefeller. Okay, so we're going to go all the way back to like the late 1800s. And really quick, I'm going to get my sunglasses here while I'm talking. It's a little bright out today. Anyways, I want to talk to you about, the late 1800s, John Rockefeller, Carnegie, those guys, how they did it. And really, when you look at what they did is a couple things. They had really good income. So that's an indicator. They had really good income, especially Rockefeller. He was he was great at earning income, but the guy was also a miser. And that's kind of how you need to be when you're starting out on this thing, trying to build wealth. Right? So a miser, it means he penny pinched. Like he has a story in his journal that he was actually bragging about, when they were stealing kerosene cans. He did a test with basically a couple of different sealing options, and he would reduce the amount of seal they'd use until the can started leaking. And then as soon as it started leaking, he increased the seal by like 1 or 2 more drops, and found out that it wouldn't leak at that point. He saved money on seal. He's talking about how he saved like $5,000 a year or something like that, which isn't a ton of money, even back then, compared to what Rockefeller had. But that's the mindset. He made a bunch of money. He kept his expenses very low, very frugal, and he had huge margins. That's why the guy could save 40% of his income, right? So if you want to know, how do the wealthy do this, those are the first two things. Those are the first two things: affluent income and then very low expenses, right? And I'm not a Dave Ramsey, beans and rice guy, but I am saying, if it's not going to help you build wealth or reduce your taxes, you probably don't need to buy it, okay? Now, once they actually had money to put aside, initially what they did is they used trusts, okay? Everything would go into a trust. So everything would go into a trust. They would start to accumulate wealth in the trust, and the trust is treated like another entity. I want you to understand that. A trust is treated like a person. In the eyes of the IRS and the government, they treat a trust like a totally different entity. It has its own EIN, it has its own taxes, all of that stuff, right? So they put it all into a trust. They would accumulate, and then they would use the trust to buy income-producing assets and businesses. And they would continue to build and build and build and build. Eventually Rockefeller's trust built up to the point where the government actually broke it up. They said, you can't have all of this in one trust. It's a monopoly. You have to break it up. So Standard Oil Trust got broken up into 330 different companies, right? But at the time, that's what they were doing. Now, after the trust thing was kind of eliminated by, it was Teddy Roosevelt was really the one pushing on that. When he eliminated that, then people switched to corporations. Okay, they would switch to a corporation. They would do the same thing. All of the money would go in the corporation. The main difference is, the corporation is a little bit, it's still treated like another person, but a little bit different tax structure than a trust. And the ownership is also different. You've got to have shares in a corporation. In a trust, you don't have shares. You just have, trustees and managers of the trust, right? So they started using corporations. And actually, ironically, like I said, Teddy Roosevelt was the one that broke up trusts. Most people don't know this. Teddy Roosevelt had hundreds of thousands of dollars in a life insurance policy. So when he was done being president, he had some ridiculous number. It was back in the 1900s, right? But it was $500,000 in life insurance cash value. If you inflation adjust that, that might be $5 or $10 million bucks today. If you think about around 1915, 1920, that's when he had that money. So really the concept is, as you're increasing the income, you're lowering your expenses, increasing your free cash flow. Today, we can actually use life insurance. Life insurance has been around since, the early to mid 1800s. They've paid dividends consistently. And the thing that actually makes life insurance better than a trust, it's actually two things. On a trust, when you take distributions, you do have to pay taxes. Okay, you're issued a K-1 and you do have to pay taxes. Same thing with a corporation. Okay, you take distributions from a corporation, you're gonna pay income tax on it because that money changed hands, right? With life insurance, you don't pay taxes ever. Okay, the other thing about a trust and a corporation, they don't actually have any growth. You have to invest the assets. So think of it just like a vehicle, like a bottle, right? You can put your drink in a bottle. It doesn't mean it's gonna taste good. You have to pour something in the drink to make it flavored. So trust is like the bottle, corporation is like the bottle, but life insurance is different. Life insurance grows. So it's giving you, it is a unilateral trust. It's basically a unilateral agreement on life insurance. You're the only party that's involved. You're the only party that has any control or rights to change the policy itself. IRS can't touch it, none of that stuff. So it gives you the same protection as a trust. It is tax-free, unlike a trust, and you're gonna get paid a 6 to 8% dividend, unlike a trust. A trust won't pay you anything, right? So think about this, like you put the money in your life insurance, it's growing at 6 to 8%, and you're like, well, yeah, but Jerry, what if I wanna use it? What if I wanna go invest in a business like you said Rockefeller did? Or what if I wanna go, buy real estate like you mentioned, the wealthy have done? Then you can do that. Okay, with life insurance, you can access the funds and use it to invest, and the best part is it's still tax-free and it's still gonna grow. So imagine being like Roosevelt, having $500,000 in your life insurance like he had, and it's growing at a 6 to 8% dividend, and being able to pull that money out and go buy a business or go buy income producing real estate. And while you're earning the money on that real estate, you're still earning a 6 to 8% dividend simultaneously. Guys, this is the best wealth building tool out there, and it's not hype, it's just math. Like if you sit down with me, we will go over math. That's what we're gonna talk about. It's not gonna be, let's get you emotionally excited about retirement and have you think about all the bad things that'll happen if you don't make changes. Dude, if you don't wanna make changes to your finances, I can't help you. Like my job is to deal with you and help you once you've decided you wanna make the changes and you need something that works. And that's what the Sacred Account does. So if you're watching this and you're interested in learning more about the Sacred Account, learning more about historically how it's been used and how we actually mimic the traits of the top 1% with this account, I wanna make a real quick offer to you. You can go try and figure it out on your own, right? But the truth is, unless you're a licensed life insurance agent, you can't basically do anything. You can't set it up on your own. It's not something that you do yourself. You actually have to have an authorized agent. That's what I am. So if you're watching this and you're like, well, all right, I'm interested. If I set one up, I'm gonna need somebody that's licensed to do it for me. I like Jerry. This stuff makes sense. If that's you, then I want you to click the link below. Okay, it's called sacredaccount.com. And basically what that's gonna do is it's gonna give you a bunch of information. Okay, relevant, specific information. It's not complicated. I'm a simple guy. I like to keep it simple and broken down for you. That site's gonna give you a bunch of information. And after you read the information, if it still makes sense and you still think that this is a good idea, then I want you to go ahead and submit your info to me, and I can reach out. My team can get on a call with you, answer your questions, give you more information, and see if it's something that's a good fit for you. Now, if that's you, click the link. If that's not you, keep watching, keep learning. Thank you though, either way. And by the way, real quick, tonight at 7 p.m. Alaska time, 11 p.m. Eastern time, I'm gonna be teaching a wealth creation course on investing. So we're gonna talk about real estate and we're gonna talk about private lending tonight. Last week, we talked about mutual funds and annuities. Okay, so we're gonna go through a series where we break down all of the different investment options out there so you understand them. It's a free course. It'll be live here on Facebook, so make sure you tune into that. Again, that's gonna be live on my page, 7 p.m. Alaska time, 11 p.m. Eastern. Don't act like you ain't up watching Netflix anyways. Thank you for tuning in this morning though. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.